5:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Ware?
Here.
Commissioner Phil?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Mayor Denner?
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
You want to move that before we adopt it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move the I gotta get it up. What's it called?
Unfinished business.
The unfinished business down to the bottom of the agenda, and then adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Tracy, you want to take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Let's see, we have no appearances or acknowledgement. We'll move down into consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So move.
I'll second it.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. We'll move down to new business. Item number 1, Roxy, authorize the mayor to electronically sign damage restriction dimensions, DDD, Category D, water control facility, Memorial Park, project 135906, FEMA 2019 September flood number 4469, DRSD. Are you there, Roxy?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. This is the exact same thing you've seen come before you again, gentlemen. You signed this originally on September 30th, gave the mayor authority to do so. This is a duplicate of that. I have gone through this. There are no changes. It's just that it went back to down the ladder, and now we have to re-sign it. This is for Memorial Park. The last, and hopefully the last time we'll see it, you have one more that'll come before you next week for Egan to Hearth. But I'm just asking you to approve the mayor to sign this so that we can move forward with this project on the rock wall.
So move. I'll second.
Any other comments or discussion for Roxy? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Item number 2, Jeff, approve first reading ordinance number 1628, amend appropriation ordinance number 1619 for fiscal year 2020.
Yes, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, this is an annual, or typically an annual action that the commission takes to increase any budget items that have exceeded their budgetary authority for the year. The legal mechanism is that the city, each department that would exceed its total budget is required to supplement the budget to allow for that authority to exceed those dollar amounts. However, during the course of the years, I believe my predecessor might bring to the board other items that they don't necessarily exceed the whole department budget, but just might be of interest to the commission, like a specific line item. And however, I will tell you that this year there is not much to bring forward to you, at least that you don't already know about or have acted on previously. So, and this is only required for a certain number of the city funds. Not all of them are even required to have a budget. If it's an enterprise fund, legally, a budget is not necessarily even required if it's exceeded. However, we have always done that in the past. That is not a problem this year. That you don't see any enterprise funds on there. Enterprise, I mean electric, water, sewer, garbage. But anyway, I would like to just take a moment and go through these items. None of these are going to take very long, and again, most of them you have seen before. The first one is one that I just brought to you, just that I thought you might have a little bit of interest in. The finance office department is by no means going to exceed their budget for the year, and with that, even the salary account is not going to exceed the budget for this year. The reason I put it on here and a minimal dollar amount is I thought that you might want to know that, because the previous finance officer did get paid, as is customary for any employee, all the unused sick leave, or a portion of the unused sick leave, vacation, severance pay, and any other pay that they might have received. So I thought maybe you'd want to know that because the city has not expended its some other budget amounts for employees in the finance office. For instance, one retired in August and who has not been replaced. There was another employee included in the budget who was never hired at all. And so I just thought you might want to know that account is fine for the year. And that's where my salary comes out of. And again, the staff in the finance office, including the past finance officer. So I just thought you might want to know that account's going to be fine. The next two items you have acted on or seen these before, I believe. The police department, a month ago, you agreed to, because the police department was not going to purchase some technology equipment, that we agreed to, or the commission agreed to place that money in a reserve. That's what that's doing, so we're actually lowering the machinery and equipment account and moving the money to the reserve. The same holds true in the street department. There was a street department to be purchased in the 2020 budget. That is not being purchased. I believe Commissioner Bill brought an item to the board in July, possibly increasing that, because I believe the city is going to purchase a different type of street sweeper that costs a few $1,000s more. But that is not going to be purchased in 2020. So what this is doing is actually reducing the machinery budget and putting that money aside for 2021 to be purchased. The next item is the flood relief fund that was set up last year as a result of the 2019 flood. A few expenses were made this year, all to be reimbursed by FEMA. And those expenses, as you can see, didn't amount to much. Some speed. There was a pump purchased at Flintfield, and there was a water heater purchased. I think it was at Zoom Diamonds, maybe, which is also part, if I remember correctly, part of Flintfield. So anyway, those funds will be reimbursed. They just haven't yet. Just by the way, I believe that this fund will be the one that's also used when the housing buyout program begins, which will be pretty soon. The next item is the second cent sales tax. The city city budgets to transfer some monies out of there. Pretty much all the money in the second set goes to the general fund for street projects, water fund, sewer fund. This year, originally in the budget, we had about 90,000 to be transferred to the sewer fund. Because of the rural development project, that's now going to be a little bit larger. Chad and I have been working on this quite a bit. And the other transfer that comes out of the second cent sales tax goes to the general fund, and that's the major portion of it, and the water fund. That is not going to meet this budget right away. But anyway, this is nothing that's unusual. It's just that the way that we did the project this year, that rural development project, so more sewer projects were done than was originally estimated. The next two items are tax tip districts. Basically, the first one, the 303 fund, is, I believe, for the new hotel in town. And if you recall, TIF projects work such that the property taxes, increased property taxes from those projects is used to pay off infrastructure that's put in to building that project. And it's run through the city, and it's an in and out, no cost to the city, other than just the accounting of this. So the Madison Hospitality Group is TIF District 2. They paid off $1,000 in debt, and that was received by increased property taxes. Again, not much money, but we still need to have the budgetary authority. The other one is Grant Circle. I was here when that project was constructed. That's housing and a business development that was done on South Washington Avenue, and it goes east to Grand Avenue, includes some storage sheds and some housing projects or homes back there. That's the same way. The $12,000 in debt was paid off, all was recouped by property taxes, but we still need to have the budgetary authority for that. So that's about it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a motion to approve first reading ordinance number 1628, amend apportionment ordinance number 1619 for fiscal year 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion for Jeff? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Item number 3 is also Jeff's to explain. Approve reduction of depreciation reserve in recycling fund by $63,700.
Sure. Both items 3 and 4 relate to the same topic. We've been going through the individual reserves for the year. The city has a number of specific reserves for certain equipment or projects that are coming, and Tracy and Roxy have been extremely helpful to me in arriving at those amounts. But researching that, it looks like the city, for cash flow purposes, plan to lower the depreciation reserve in the recycling fund by that specific dollar amount. And that appears to be to cover any, to make sure that the cash in the unappropriated cash in the recycling fund is at an adequate level. Number 4, the solid waste garbage container fund is the same thing. Evidently, Roxy or Gary Gagnon, the superintendent there, doesn't feel that that's necessarily needed anymore, that when they need garbage containers, they have a line item that those come out of. I will add, too, that I believe in the next week or two, there'll be a couple other reserves coming to you that the Parks Department no longer feels is needed. And I will be talking to the commissioner in charge of that about that also. We'll be bringing those forward. So that's all those are. It's no movement to another fund, no added expense. It's just moving the money out of the reserve to our cash account.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a motion to approve the reduction of depreciation reserve in the recycling fund by $63,700?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Fell?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Do I have a motion for item number 4 to approve the elimination of solid waste fund garbage container reserves of $15,110?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
Jeff, I had a question for you on both these. So does this go back into general fund, or did you say it went back where? Into cash?
Yes.
Into general fund?
Good question. Lowering these reserves just moves the money out of a reserve into their normal unobligated cash account. So the funds are not being moved to the general fund. They will stay in the recycling fund and the solid waste fund.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I should have explained, the recycling fund will still have a reserve of $115,000 left over.
Okay.
And that will remain that, actually that brings up a whole other thought. That fund also has $35,000 in a reserve to purchase I believe it's skid steer, if Commissioner Bell remembers, this year that isn't being purchased. So anyway, there still will remain $115,000 in the recycling reserve.
Okay.
Jeff, is that the track loader we just approved?
No.
That's something
No.
different. Okay.
It's different.
Okay, any other comments or discussion for Jeff on item number 4? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Item number 5, Chad, review and award bid number 899 chemicals.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, and members of the Commission, and any listening online as well. Included in the agenda packet is a bid tabulation for bids for chemicals to be used for the water treatment plant. The bids were opened on December 22nd at 2 o'clock. There were 3 bidders. You can see those in the tabulation. This bid process is set up to award each schedule separately. The low bidder for schedules B, D, E, and F was Hawkins Incorporated out of Roseville, Minnesota. There was also no bidders on those particular schedules. And then the low bidder for Schedule A was Pete Lean and Sons out of Rapid City, South Dakota. Both of those 2 bidders are were currently awarded the chemicals for 2020, and so they're our current contractor. I have talked briefly with Mr. Nybert operates the plants. He is satisfied with these 2 bidders and would like to proceed with awarding the bids in those schedules shown to the low respective bidders. And I would recommend the same. And I'd be happy to stand by for questions. None of these, I should note too, none of these are required to bid by law, and I say that primarily due to the dollar amounts involved, but it's just been a process that we've used for quite some time, and since we're bidding it anyway, we can have the contractors under our terms, if you will, which can prevent things like fuel surcharges and such like that. And so we just go ahead and just bid it anyway. And so just a bit of an FYI onto that as well. So I'd be happy to stand by for questions.
So do I have a motion to review and award bid for lime to Pete Lean and Son for $166,300, and item B, D, E, and F to Hawkins Inc. out of Roseville, Minnesota.
It's not $166,000 though,
Is
is
it?
it? Is it
No.
based on?
I'm sorry, I should have
I'm sorry.
been clarified, Mayor. It's a bit of it's a typo.
Okay.
It's a price per ton. It's $166.30.
Per ton.
Okay,
There's an extra zero there,
Okay.
per ton. Yes,
Sorry.
sir.
No, that's not.
thanks for clearing
Yeah.
that up.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there any questions or discussion for Chad?
Where does this compare to the past, Chad? Right in line?
Yes, that's a good question. We do include, as a supplement, I guess you could call it, to our bid tabulation in this table below.
Oh, down
It
below.
shows what those prices were in previous years. So you can see in 2020, the lime was $173.49 per ton, so it actually went down. Liquid chlorine was 47, now it's 55. Ferric chloride was 557, now it's 580. Fluosilicic acid was 457, and that went up to 460. And aqueous ammonia was $3.25, now it's $3.63. So a slight increase. I didn't run the numbers to see what percentages are, but just general inflation is kind of what I would chalk them up to versus previous years.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Fell,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item 6, update on COVID.
No new cases today in Lake County.
Good.
That's good. Okay. We will move back to unfinished business. Item number 1, Chad, if you want to bring us up to speed on item number 1, adopt resolution number 2020-34, sidewalk improvement 2021.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, and members of the commission. Included in the agenda packet is said resolution. This was brought back to the agenda from last week. There was a hearing last week that you had as required by state law, and several landowners did appear and speak to the potential adoption of this resolution of necessity. And the commission wanted to take a little bit of time to ponder the decision, and so that's why this is back on the agenda. I'll just really go over it briefly because I went over it some last week, but I'd be happy to add to it as you see fit. But the passage of this resolution would make binding the requirement to install sidewalks in the 6 areas listed in the resolution, and which were recommended by the sidewalk committee, and as in an overall effort as identified in some of the different comprehensive plans for the city to get sidewalks installed throughout town. This process has been ongoing since about 2004, a very similar process. the city will look at these areas, and in this case, this year, these are particular roadway corridors or routes. We typically install the ADA ramps when the route selection approach, if you will, is chosen, and that's what was chosen this year, as opposed to an area-wide process. It's handled slightly different at that time, but we're not doing that this year, so I won't get into those details at this time. So with that, I'd be happy to stand by for questions. I will say there's a gentleman who had called me earlier today. He is here, and he can speak for himself, of course. Murray Smith of 122 North Olive. He and I had an opportunity to talk some briefly today about this item on the agenda and his desire to appear. He's able to make it to speak this week. He had some obligations last week, as I understand. So with that, I'll stand by for questions.
Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution number 2020-34 sidewalk improvement 2021?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comments or discussion? If you want to come up, Murray, state your name and
Murray Smith, 122 North Olive Avenue. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the commission, anybody listening right now. My wife and I, we moved to Madison about 6 years ago. We're transplants from the once great state of Ohio. We came to South Dakota because this is one of the last free bastions in the country, and this is undisputed. We've seen this during the course of the year. My neighbor and I, we oppose the sidewalk going into our property for several reasons. And the questions I would like to ask you gentlemen and ladies, is my house was built approximately 75 years ago, so why today? After 75 years of that home being placed there, why is it necessary to put an unnecessary sidewalk in front of our home, considering there's a sidewalk across the street? There's no schools, there's a park, but there's no schools, there's no business, there's nothing near us where a sidewalk would be needed on our side of the street. My home sits approximately 15 feet from the edge of the road. The sidewalk, this unnecessary sidewalk, is literally going to go up against the side of my house. And if you look at the pictures, okay, I live on the corner, and it is literally going to go up to the side of my house. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, what about my privacy? Now, if we get if we move the sidewalk in front of my trees, okay, you're going to take my trees out. I've already spoken with a realtor. He said that could very definitely have a negative impact on the value of my home. And also considering the fact that those are the only trees, they're mature trees, they're healthy trees, and they give my home shade in the summertime, I use less energy. My air conditioner isn't using as much energy to keep my house at 73 degrees. Okay? But not only that, but why would we pass these unnecessary and excessive costs to lower income people and retired people in this city? Why would we do such a thing for something unnecessary? These costs, I'm looking at about approximately $1,500 to $2,000. Okay, I am a truck driver. I have been hit hard this year with COVID. I myself haven't caught it, but my industry has taken a huge hit. I've spent very little time at home, ladies and gentlemen, because myself and 3.5 million of us, to include my neighbor, Mr. Lean, he's also a professional driver and an owner. He's taken a bigger hit than I have, being a company driver, because the freight that he needs to generate income just has not been there. I've been very fortunate because I haul food, but still I've spent less time, and I have taken a hit in money. I've lost miles. So honestly, I don't have $2,000 to lay up on my in spare cash. Then I look at the retired folks. There's a lot of retired people here in this great city. Great little town. And there's a lot of low-income folks as well. Where are they going to come up with $2,000 to $3,000 or more for something that is unnecessary? Especially on my side of the street. Again, there's a sidewalk in perfectly good shape on the other side. And when we don't have enough room, so why is there a need for a sidewalk on my side of the street when it's going to take up property space and it's going to be so close to my house? So why should we be forced to absorb this unnecessary expense during this pandemic when residual cash for most people is non-existent? I'm not a wealthy man by any means. I'm not hurting, but this year it has put a massive strain on my income, COVID. And I'm sure anybody in this room can appreciate that. Because I'm sure we all work very hard for the money we earn. And now I have my wonderful city telling me, Mr. Smith, we're going to destroy your property. We're going to force you to pay for a sidewalk that really isn't necessary on your side of the street. So again, the costs. What about the people that can't afford this? I could probably wind up getting a personal loan, but if I can't, you people are going to tack it on my taxes. And what's going to happen if perhaps, and it's possible, the cost of my home is affected negatively. The value of my home is decreased. Is the county and the city going to lower my property taxes? Probably not. I'm not asking for the impossible here, folks, and I appreciate you taking the time out this evening to let me stand here and address you with this problem. I am greatly appreciative. Thank you. But I ask you folks, why, after 75 years, is it necessary to put something in our property that's unnecessary? Why should the people of Madison incur the cost of removing trees? And if you look at my property, or you look at my street, there's going to be a big gap in missing trees on that street. And that, honestly, it gives the street the appeal of being a very nice place to live, which it is. Why would you folks, you're citizens of Madison, why would you folks be burdened with the extra cost it's going to take to put something in that is unnecessary? The bottom line, I guess it really doesn't matter what the cost of my property or lack thereof would be. But the biggest thing, for the past 15 minutes, I've listened to you wonderful people talk about budgets and money. That tells me you're looking out for us, the citizens of Madison. You're looking out for our wallet. So why would you, since you're sitting here talking about saving money, why would you add more money and make people spend something on something we don't need? Again, I asked you, after 75 years, my house has been there for 75 years approximately. Why now, all of a sudden, is it necessary to have a sidewalk on my side of the street where it's going to take my property and put it right up against my house? And it's going to take Mr. Lean's property away and it's going to put it up against his house. Not to mention, he's only going to have a few inches to park his car in his driveway. And that's putting his pickup truck right literally up against his garage door. Otherwise, he's going to be sitting over. So this is all I have to say, folks. And I appreciate you folks let me speak this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members.
Is there any other further comment, discussion?
Chad, the variance side of it, if there was a variance placed, if he wanted the sidewalk moved further away from his home, is that something we can work with?
Yes, we have a process. The commission has passed a resolution that outlines the process, and in short, we would work with the landowner. They would fill out a few forms just to determine where they would want to put it exactly, and then it would go before the sidewalk committee. They'd make a recommendation, then it come back to the city commission for make the final decision. And in this case, I think Mr. Smith's neighbor, Mr. Lean, last week he talked about, potentially moving that sidewalk closer to the street. And so the variance I'm anticipating would be to be closer than the 5-foot minimum that we like to keep for snow and so on. So I'm assuming if that would be the case as for Mr. Smith as well, perhaps he would coordinate with Mr. Lean to try to put it a little bit closer to the street. That would be the process.
And the history of the sidewalks has been in place. It started in 1996, long before I was ever here. I think that the city they spent a lot of money to get sidewalks all over. We wanted everybody to have them, is what I understood. I've only been at. They are and they aren't. I mean, I think that there is a park there. The pool is over there. There are some things over, not necessarily right in front of your house, but there could be kids that could come down and cross there too. So, I actually sit on the sidewalk committee and have spent some time with the committee during the year, and we really try to find where the need is, to be honest with you. And I know that your home you've been there for 6 years, and it's an ongoing project. It has been for years. I know that the city is absorbing a lot of the sidewalk this year in the project, but those are just some of the conversations we've had with people.
I would like to make a motion that this goes back for review to the sidewalk committee and city engineer and discuss this for a later date and take the Privacy Act if it's going to be right up against their house. I don't think anybody in this room would want a sidewalk right 6 inches from the front of their house. I know I wouldn't.
We already got a motion on the table. Who made the motion?
I did.
Commissioner Shaw?
Would you amend that motion, or we can vote on this and?
But what, Bob, if you want to amend it, but what are we going to amend? Just the two homes? I mean, because there's a whole project here.
Well, take a look at it and see if we can put the sidewalk closer to the curb, if it's okay with the engineer and sidewalk committee, and then come back with it. So,
Jack, could that?
or shrink the sidewalk up from 4'8" up to 3 foot or something, you know?
So we can, to apply to that last point, Commissioner Thill, we can narrow the sidewalk to 4 feet before there's issues with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so that could be an option, and actually I suppose that could be part of the variance request as well. As far as the option of moving it closer to the curb, typically that it would be can be decided, you know, with the variance when we talk to if this goes through with the owners. We don't make that decision at this point typically, you know, and so you know it's not set in stone the location until the contractor, the owner, and the owner's contractor would get that, and then they would take that up at that time and determine if they would want a variance or not. I'm trying to think what, and then of course at that time the sidewalk committee, as you're suggesting, would take that under advisement at that point in time as well. I don't know what they, just thinking out loud to bear with me, I don't know what they would decide right now, other than, you know, omitting, you know, this entire route or these houses or any of those types of things. I don't know if that answered the question there or not. Again, I had a question from Commissioner Shaw.
I think the proper way of doing it is we should go ahead and vote on this, and if it passes now, the homeowner can put in for a variance to shrink it, the sidewalk 6 inches, you said?
4 foot would be the minimum.
Right.
Per ADA, if they wanted to gain some, you know, a couple inches, 8 inches in particular, in that case, and then of course if there's any setback reduction requested as part of that as well.
Chad, how far back are those trees off the curb?
No, I haven't put a tape to those exactly, but they're clearly within the public right-of-way.
Okay.
I would anticipate that I did take a picture here, they're about 4 feet. Okay, so Mr. Smith had mentioned they're 4 feet right now, so if you have that sketch, I put together a sketch, I shared it with Mr. Murray as well, those trees would almost certainly need to come out for the sidewalk to get in, because again, this is as Mr. Murray, I think, mentioned it, if he didn't, I mentioned it last week, this is that 60-foot right-of-way area, which there leaves no flexibility, quite frankly. Most of our right-of-ways are 66 feet, or and many of them even 80 feet, which leaves much more flexibility to meander, if you will, that sidewalk around. Not so in this case, particularly if we want to maintain that 5-foot setback. But then the variance mechanism would come into play.
Okay.
And the trees you said were in the right of way, so if they had to come out, the city could help the homeowner take them out.
City has helped homeowners to take trees down in the past, and they will continue to do so. Mr. Gagnon, we coordinate with Mr. Gagnon and his crews, and in some cases the electric department for the top of them, I suppose, and such.
So you said with ADA, we could get by with a 4-foot sidewalk.
That would be the minimum.
So if Murray would come and ask for a variance to go 4 foot and go 3 foot instead of 5 foot, it would go through the sidewalk committee and then come back here.
Correct.
Okay. And both houses could gain 2 feet 8 inches
Correct.
away from their house.
Correct.
If everything falls in place.
Right. Yeah. And just to be clear, I think it's worth noting, just a point of clarification, and it's very close, and I think, Mr. Smith, he's still here, he can correct me if I'm wrong, it won't be right up beside the house, but it is true that those houses are much closer than a normal setback. It'll be pretty close.
So again, what about my privacy? If it's 3-4 feet away from my house, honestly, somebody could literally stand in front of my front window and stare in my house, and according to the rules, it's public sidewalk, there's nothing I can do about it. So what about my privacy? Do you folks have privacy? I would definitely honor your privacy. How about let me have my privacy? As this gentleman has just asked, or just told you folks, not working with a lot of room here. So, I mean, at the very least, again, I've been there 6 years, and we've never, ever had an issue about a sidewalk before, because there's one across the street. It's been there since I own the property. So, again, I realize that this project's been in the making for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So, but again, going around the city, I see places that there aren't sidewalks where I know you folks have put sidewalks. I can't name them specifically, but I just kind of drive around and just kind of looking at things. But what makes my house and Mr. Lean's house, and include the neighbors behind him, what makes it so unique is that these homes were built close to the road. I didn't have anything to do with that. Okay, that's just the way the houses came up when they built them. So again, I mean, you're still looking at probably 4 feet away from my front door.
Any further comment, discussion? We have the motion on the floor to adopt the resolution number 2020-34, sidewalk improvement 2021. Is there any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Fell?
Nay.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Nay. Public comment. No public comment. Any announcement? No announcement. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Mike will get you